Well, we showed you at the top of the hour that Attorney General Eric Holder made remarks about voting rights before the NAACP National Convention in Houston this morning. But there's another story at this convention, and that is President Obama's decision to take a pass on an invitation to speak. Governor Romney goes and speaks there tomorrow. Vice President Biden speaks on Thursday, the Attorney General this morning. And that is raising some questions today among some about whether President Obama may be taking black voters for granted. Joining me now, David Webb, host of the David Webb Show on SiriusXM's Patriot Channel and Tea Party 365 co-founder, and Tara Dowdell, who's a former aide to New Jersey Governor James McGreevey, as well as a Democratic political strategist. So now some are saying that he is taking the black vote for granted. This is Reverend William Owens, who's the president of the Coalition of African American Pastors, saying he has met with Latinos, he meets with everyone, except for the people who put him where he is. And some saying he shouldn't be taking the black vote for granted, David.
Well, this is political reality. Let's call it what it is, Megyn. Blacks were vested in the president's color during the 2008 campaign, not his policies, not his lack of requisite experience. But there aren't enough blacks to elect a president. They're 12% of the population. Hispanics are a larger group, so he went and he spoke to the National Council. This is about politics. He ran by drawing coalitions together, subsets of the American mosaic, if you will. And those people went out and voted for him. So unless they have a defined interest that they can use, they're not that valuable. Also, he didn't run on a black agenda, to give him credit, because you're supposed to be the American president. So he didn't run on that, even though he self-identifies as black. And that is causing some friction in the black community, who now are lower. They're fighting with Hispanics and illegals on the lower end of the socioeconomic scale. They're looking at the policies. They're looking at big government failures, worse schools, worse policies, social services, failing urban environments.
So in other words, there may be some unhappiness in the black community, as there is among, some voters nationwide because of the economy and so on. You know, I look at this, Tara, I look at the numbers, and President Obama beat McCain among black voters 95 to 4%. Look at the erosion now. Rasmussen reports, now it's 93-3. He went from 95.4 to 93.3. I mean, really? Is there erosion in the black community?
No, I don't think it's fair to say there's erosion in the black community. But I want to take issue with something that David said. He said African Americans elected President Obama because we were vested in his color. That Absolutely. Is insulting. Excuse me, David. That is insulting. To say that we can't think for ourselves, that we can't discern policies, that is a very insulting statement to make. And I hope you understand the harm that you're causing when you promote these stereotypes about the African American community. But I would like to make a point about the president's policies. First of all, blacks vote for Democrats historically in large numbers since basically JFK. So that's not new because of President Obama.
But is there risk, as this reverend is claiming, in the black community feeling like he is taking their vote for granted? Some seem to be saying he needs to work for it a little bit more. President Obama has said, look, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Well, President Obama, in fairness, has had policies that are targeted towards the African-American community, as well as other communities that are suffering. One fact that people are unaware of is that there has been a 155% increase in African-American businesses getting access to capital via the Small Business Administration.
The unemployment rate among blacks is much higher than the national average.
But that's a historical thing. Since 1972, since the government has been tracking that number, the unemployment rate amongst blacks has been double. So let's separate the narrative from the actual facts.
Let's go to some of the facts. Let's look at black youth unemployment from 16 to 25, 19 to 25 even more closely, which is about 36.5%. When you look at what we have here, real empowerment in the black community, and you know what, be insulted all you want, because it's more insulting to take a group of people and say you have historically voted only for Democrats, and what's been the return on your investment? We're all Americans. We're not black Americans, white Americans, Hispanic Americans.
But you had no trouble separating us out to insult our community specifically.
You know what, Tara, be insulted. But Megyn, let me finish.
Yeah, quickly.
Here's
the
thing. It is more insulting, and you can't paint everybody in one community. But when you have a predominance of voting by party and by race and by gender, then you have a problem. And then the black community, this is their history for 40 years.
Is it a mistake? I have heartbreak in 20 seconds, or 30 seconds. Is it a mistake for him not to speak at the NAACP convention?
No, he has tons of his supporters and people from the administration.
It's not the same when it's not the president.
There. But the bigger issue is, if David really was concerned about these issues, you would be supporting workforce training. We have structural unemployment in this country that disproportionately affects black people. President Obama has been pushing.
Just on federal policy, Tara. That's a false premise.
For workforce training, which will help get fill some of the 3.6. There are 3.6 million jobs open in this country right now. Workforce training will help that.
Even though we could clearly spend the next rest of the show, we got to go. Be right back.